So there's this Muslim guy who makes the weakestly veiled death threats, suggesting that his religion gives him the right to kill people. A claim that even the most reviled hate groups in America try to steer clear of. But more specifically, after some beating around the bush, he actually comes to the conclusion that his religion gives him the right to specifically kill me. Under some contrived circumstances, of course. Oh, and for those who need a refresher, here is the clip in full. In full. Yet this is the full quote. There is no effort to mine this, to put in a false light in order to change the meaning. This is the full quote. And I'll be frank, the hate and spite in this guy's facial expressions says it all. Just look at the eyes.
Thunderfoot, and people who think like you. If you ever try to awaken any sort of sleeping giant that is hostile to any Muslim or non-Muslim innocent person, as mandated in the Quran and the true interpretation of the Sharia that all true Muslims and the majority of the Muslims in the world share. We Muslims, the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our non-Muslim allies will send you to the God that you wish you knew. Not as a threat, not as a promise, but a mandate of justice.
And normally I don't attach links to smaller channels for fear of swamping them, but given the number of people who have previously voiced concerns about this being quote mined or being shown in a false light, not a bit of it. The link is included below, and I implore people to go and watch the video and just see what the face of moderate Islam has to offer. I mean, it's farcical. The guy starts out in the beginning of the video claiming that I don't make the distinction between the different types of Muslims.
In this recent video, he talked about Muslims and how the Muslims, an unqualified statement that later I would learn to understand was a universal one, at least in the context of his statements, that we Muslims are causing a strife again.
And then goes on in the same video, not only to make the same lack of distinction himself, but to presume to speak for all Muslims himself.
And the true interpretation of the Sharia that all true Muslims and the majority of the Muslims in the world share. We Muslims, the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our non-Muslim allies will send you to the God that you wish you knew. Not as a threat, not as a promise, but a mandate of justice.
So, yeah, I do a couple of videos basically spotlighting who this angry young Muslim thinks his religion permits, requires and demands him to kill. Anyway, I'm getting on with my life a few months later, and someone messages me telling me that this guy, dawahfilms, has been hunting for my docs for months with malevolent intent. And in dawahfilms' own words, you do realize that if we find out, it's the end for Thunderfoot. The moment we find out where he teaches. And that the last resort is to hack into his channel. Not the main channel, Beauty in the Universe. He won't notice. Woot. And for those who would prefer to hear it straight from his mouth...
But I'm sorry, to say that it was not your intention is an absolute nonsense. It's clear from everything that you've done and everything that's been exposed about it that that was your intention. And you even went so far as to suggest hacking into his account to get the information that you required.
Okay, I've already stated previously, even before you came in here, all right, that even though nobody's going to believe me that I made that comment in jest, that still was inappropriate to make, all right? And I never went through with it.
Yeah, what would you know? That kind of brings the poster boy for Islamic stupidity back onto the radar. And for those who think that's not a fitting title, this guy spends some 20 minutes trying to justify why it was okay for his perfect and divine prophet, the perfect man, sorry, the perfect illiterate man, at the age of 50 to marry a girl at the age of 7, and then to have sex with her at the age of 9. All I can say is that Islam must have very low standards for the perfect man. So anyway, when all this becomes public, yeah, what do you know, he's the victim again. Apparently he didn't realize that if you thrust yourself into the public arena and issue some weakly veiled death threats, that people can actually publicly respond and call bullshit on you. It's one of those things. It's like getting into a boxing match, throwing a few punches, and then bitching like hell when some folks start throwing punches back. The bizarre thing is, firstly he tried some deeply unconvincing videos saying that he was being quote-mined and put in a false light. Like I said, it's kind of a lost cause given the nature of the original video. And when most people didn't buy into his "I'm the victim" card, he decided to go on this personal spite-filled vendetta. Firstly, he tried YouTube.
I then went to YouTube to talk about this. Nothing happened.
Who ignored him, quite rightly recognizing that if he wants to put himself out there, directly addressing someone, he can't complain when he gets criticism on the self-same forum he has injected himself into in order to criticize others. Still not getting the message, he investigates trying to sue me for slander.
I then went to legal counsel as they suggested that it would be very difficult for me to do. I also didn't have the means, the money to do so.
And yeah, that really does bring back all too familiar echoes of PCS and how the world works. And no doubt they laughed at him. You know, yeah, can't really sue someone for saying something that's evidently true. The irony, of course, being is that he had no problem whatsoever in engaging in such activities himself.
He brought my internet life into public eye. He brought my internet life into public eye by, calling the FBI on me.
Well, I have a question. Is it a fact, does anyone know, that he actually did this FBI? Because I've never seen a confirmation of that. Is that true? First of all, that's what I've asked for months, and I've even discussed with you. I've never, I mean, how do you confirm that? How do we confirm that even happened?
We have no recording of the issue. However, we have several eyewitnesses that were there. Even some people in this room right now were there on May 15th when he had announced this in a discussion with DPI Jones, Zero My God's Chris, and Happy Cabby. They were all there. They saw it. He openly announced that he had done so. And that is when people were telling me what had happened.
So he openly announced that he had contacted the FBI regarding you?
Yes.
Bullshit! Now, as it happens, I am in contact with the FBI and have been, as you may expect, for some time. I mean, that Molly Norris woman recently had to change her identity and go into hiding over Jawar Mohammed Day, and I'm pretty close to the top of the list that she's on. So yeah, maybe I'm a little more touchy about having my docs dropped than most. But on a threat level, dawahfilms was a joke. I mean, don't get me wrong, that angry young Muslim mouth of his occasionally blurting out what he actually thinks makes him a great poster boy for Islamic stupidity, and of course one of the minuscule minority of the world's second largest religion that's willing to undertake the almost comical task of trying to defend Islam. But I certainly wouldn't waste the FBI's time over dawahfilms. But yeah, saying that I reported dawahfilms to the FBI is demonstrably wrong. And for him to report such malicious falsehoods as true is pretty much exactly what slander laws are all about. Naturally, the poster boy for Islamic stupidity doesn't grasp the inherent irony in all of this, in that, in his mind, such slander should preclude one from being able to teach publicly.
As a future public educator myself, I know how this goes. All right, first off, he would either have been reprimanded, and if he would have lost his job, it would have been his own fault.
And one should be held accountable for one's actions. But of course, he doesn't think him engaging in such activities should preclude him from teaching publicly, or indeed that he should be held accountable for his actions.
Yeah, this is nonsense coming from people saying, I'm sick and tired of this, okay? I'm going to say this right now. I'm sick and tired of people suggesting that, he has a right to his opinion outside of his workplace. However, if his opinion is hurting other people, literally, and causing their reputation and their future career to be screwed over, I have every fucking right, okay, to protect myself and to have him, held responsible for his actions. Okay, I am tired of this bullshit. It has nothing to do with my religion. Openly announced that he had done so, and that is when people were telling me what had happened.
So he openly announced that he had contacted the FBI regarding you?
Yes. As a future public educator myself, I know how this goes. All right, first off, he would either been reprimanded, and if he would have lost his job, it would have been his own fault. All right?
So what was your intention?
No, it was not. If I had every right to go to a higher authority to get him to change because your little dick friend doesn't want to talk to anybody other than his fucking self.
So next on his spiteful vendetta list, go and hunt me down in real life and try and make my life difficult with my employer. Yeah, when your whiny little ass can't be taken seriously on the public forum, YouTube has no interest in your victimhood antics, and the legal circles laugh at you. What better way to show the virtue of your character than trying to screw up someone's job in real life? Boy, Dawa, that Islam really does make you act virtuously, doesn't it? The irony, of course, is that I laughed my ass off when I heard this. I mean, does he really think my employees don't know? And if that wasn't enough, just look how effective it was when the Catholics, the largest religious denomination in the world, tried to get P.Z. Myers fired for desecrating the host. But that didn't matter, and apparently dawahfilms has been hunting for my docs for months with this sole intention. And at this point I would like you to indulge in a little extrapolation of your own. Based on what is already known, that is, if Dawa did actually get hold of my docs, given that when the public forum thought he was full of shit, and YouTube thought he was a crybaby, and the legal forum laughed at him, and after my employees had ignored him, let's be real. Do you think this is the sort of personality who has the track record to accept? Well, obviously I must have been wrong. Or is this the sort of person who would broadcast such details on the basis that
I have every fucking right, okay, to protect myself and to have him, held responsible for his action.
We Muslims, the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our non-Muslim allies, will send you to the God that you wish you knew. Not as a threat, not as a promise, but a mandate of justice.